So how many dog crates has Impact Dog Crates actually sold this year?
Get a load of this guy.
Hey everyone, Dylan here with episode 3 of the Impact Pawdcast. Today's episode is brought to you by ImpactDogCrates.com. It's the only dog crate that does not suck and is guaranteed to last a lifetime. While we're on the subject, I think our previous guest would appreciate me bringing up the fact that we just got our new collars as well as our leashes in. Pretty nifty. Have our logo right on the inside. We'll have you a link to these on our website. Definitely recommend checking them out. The collar itself is magnetic, so just clips on. Super cool and super convenient. Today's guest is somebody who usually hides behind the scenes. None of this would be possible without him on the team. He's hands down one of the hardest workers we have here at the Impact Dog Crates. He's willing to do any task needed and has proven himself to be a great leader. Today we'll be sitting down with our production and procurement manager, Justin Meredith. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hey, thanks for having me. You got me blushing here right off.
I was going to say, why are you so red right out of the gun?
Well, I appreciate all the kind words there. Thank you.
Is that not something you normally hear from me? You look a little surprised when I said that stuff.
No, exactly. A lot nicer in front of the camera.
Fair enough. So I want to get to know you a little bit, Justin, or maybe not myself, but kind of help our viewers get to know you a little bit. So we're in Hayden, Idaho, obviously. Were you born in this area?
I actually wasn't. So I was born in, or just outside of Seattle, Washington, Maple Valley. And then I moved over to Coeur d'Alene here when I was younger, 5th grade or so, and basically grew up in Coeur d'Alene, where I'd call home.
Okay. So you've been here since 5th grade then?
Yeah, certainly.
Did you play any sports growing up during like middle school, high school, anything like that?
Yeah, so I grew up playing football. Definitely wasn't very good at it.
What position?
So I was on the line. You know, I was always kind of a chunky kid.
O-line, D-line?
Defensive line.
Okay.
You know, I basically played the bench there, more of a mathlete type. So, you know, Football was fun. Got to meet a lot of cool friends. And, you know, I actually have some of those friends working with us today. But, yeah, you know, wasn't much known for my sports, that's for sure.
Okay. Did you do any sports outside of school?
Yeah, absolutely. So grew up with my family skiing quite a bit. So every weekend we'd be headed up to the mountain. You know, my dad grew up ski racing. My siblings grew up ski racing. So, you know, we were basically raised on the mountain there.
Did you ski race when you were growing up?
So I took the non-traditional route, as my family did, and started out on a snowboard.
Okay. And how did they take that?
You know, my family is very accepting of it, although they didn't do a whole lot of training there. So it was more so like, hey, we'll see you at the bottom of the mountain.
Okay.
Or, hey, we'll see you next run. Eventually get up to speed and, you know, you get to hang out with the family. But until then, it's a pretty brutal start.
So was it your friends that pushed you into doing snowboarding, or did you just, what made you want to go that route versus skiing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my older sister, Jill, so she actually started out on the snowboard. And, you know, I saw that. It looked a little bit more fun than the skiing, and basically just took that route. I always like kind of being a little bit different and doing things that everybody else wasn't.
So not much has changed then, it sounds like.
No, not at
all. So after high school, did you do any further education or anything like that?
Yeah, so graduated high school there. I started basically right in the work world, and I made it about a year or so. And I was like, you know, I want to kind of take that next step, start getting an education. Mm-hmm. I wasn't the best at getting good grades and stuff in high school.
You just said you're a mathlete.
Yeah, I mean, math was great.
Okay, but there's several other classes as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I joined NIC, so North Idaho Community College here in Coeur d'Alene, known as the Harvard on the Lake there.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Basically made it there for about a year and then decided I wanted to kind of leave Coeur d'Alene for a little bit. I decided to join Boise State University there.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. Now, once you had left Boise State, what kind of job did you have before Impact?
Yeah, so before Impact, I guess when I was younger, I started working at the Coeur d'Alene Resort here in town.
Okay. So was that year before you went to NIC?
What we did there, I was part of the maintenance department or engineering team, and basically it was working on all the pieces of equipment across all the restaurants, the spas, the resort golf course there that they have there as well, and basically keeping up on equipment, doing some maintenance, of course, as well as installing any new equipment or renovations in restaurants. You know, everything from walk-in freezers to electrical to plumbing, we kind of worked on it all.
Wow. So you're pretty much all over the place, whether it was in the resort, out on the dock, over at the golf course. You're kind of everywhere, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very enjoyable job. Basically, every day you're doing something different, learning new skills throughout it. I was definitely known as like the laborer there.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know,
Young
you get
kid.
a bunch of experienced guys that are in each trade, and, you know, I get to hand the wrenches over, kind of like
Sure.
working on a car with your dad,
There you go.
you know, holding the flashlight. So it's a lot of fun.
Let's get into when you started here with ImpactDogCrates.com, because of course that's our sponsor. Whose idea was that for you to come on board? You know, I know the listeners, they don't know much of that history, so a little background. You know, obviously you've been friends with Hunter, the CEO, for a very long time. You know, was it you reaching out to him? Did he reach out to you? What did that look like?
Certainly. Yeah. So me and Hunter grew up. We always had a good relationship. And, you know, when I was down in Boise there going to school, I was also working for a solar company. So I started out doing door-to-door there.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So, you know, I had pretty much no sales experience. So that's kind of the start-in role to get into sales, is you start out by just knocking thousands of doors over the summer. Very hard work.
100%.
Learned lots. I wasn't very comfortable talking to many people, so it was a good way to get out of your comfort zone. You know, I think we did pretty much everywhere in the Boise, Meridian, Star even, and basically expanded the Boise area and knocked on thousands and thousands of doors, giving my solar pitch. And then there was a sales role where that, you know, solar salesman would come into the home and give a little bit more information. So I was there more so as, you know, the entry into it, getting their curiosity in solar, and then you get the closer coming in. And
Gotcha. So you're like the cold knock, basically.
Exactly.
They are not expecting you, not wanting you there. Any crazy stories?
You know, nothing too exciting there. Lots of dog actually experience there. You know, you knock on a door.
Good experience, bad experience?
Basically got good at running fast off of doorsteps. Absolutely.
That's too funny. So when you first started here, you mentioned you were working solar, and then what happened from there?
Yeah, so, you know, I started doing the actual closes on solar. So I was part of their sales team. And, you know, it's a pretty brutal industry. So you're working full commission. I was also going to school full time as well.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, it's long days. It's nonstop.
And physical too. Not like you're lifting anything, but that's a lot of walking to do, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and, you know, you kind of get to a point too where, you know, you're kind of making those sacrifices. Is it, hey, am I going to study today, or am I going to go try to make some money doing commission sales?
For sure.
And so you kind of get into those areas where you have to make that choice. And so, you know, my grades did start going down.
Sure.
As I was trying to put more effort into work to make sure, you know, I could pay bills and pay rent.
Yeah.
Eat,
so you're working
like
through college.
Absolutely. So, you know, I kind of got to a point. I was actually chatting with Hunter one time, and he's like, hey, you should just come move back home. You know, we're more than happy to have you. You know, we do need some more people on our sales team.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had some experience at that point. I was pretty excited about it. But, you know, I told him immediately no. And, you know, I wanted to finish out school.
For sure. That makes sense.
You know, Michael, the founder, and Hunter were out there. They had me for dinner one time when they were in Boise visiting their little brother, Jace. He was going to school down there at the same time.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're kind of talking to me about the role. They're offering me a position, and, you know, I was still pretty stubborn. You know, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, I appreciate it. And then, you know, about 6 months went by. I finished out that semester, and I was like, all right, you know, maybe it is time to just put school aside for now and join the workforce. And
did they make you work for it when you finally were ready?
Certainly. You know, I thought it was like, hey, you know, I have a good resume. You know, I've been doing door to door. I moved into the sales position. I've been doing sales now for about 3 years now. And, you know, I had some college experience beside me. I've been going to school for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
Had about a year left. And, you know, first day on the job, Michael came and talked to me, and he's like, hey, you know, I want you to know you have some experience here, but, you know, we really probably wouldn't hire someone with that little experience for this role.
So first day, he put you in your place.
Yeah. And, you know, I myself had thought that I had a little bit more experience than that. So, you know, it was a good, harsh awakening. And, you know, I really kind of took that moment to kind of go, hey, I'm going to make sure that I work really hard here. Yeah. And kind of prove him wrong.
Do you think that he kind of did that on purpose?
You know, knowing Michael now, working with him for a few years, I think he definitely, you know, kind of set that seed there. Yeah. And, you know, I took the bait, but hey, it worked out okay, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's smart in those ways.
He is.
And it's one of those things that he probably humbled you a little bit, but then also put a little chip on your shoulder where it's like, okay, let's
No,
go.
Certainly.
Yeah.
You know, I was still a pretty young kid when I started working here. So,
Yeah.
you know, you think you have all this experience. You know,
Oh, yeah.
been doing door to door. You've been talking to a bunch of people every day.
For sure.
You know, you've been sitting down and in-home interviews with people and, you know, telling them why solar is a great, route to go
Yeah.
and a good investment. And then you go into the dog industry and it's a totally different world and totally different sales job. And it's more of a service job, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, you're really actually helping the customers get into, you know, a crate that's going to help kind of save their dog and put them into a better position where, you know, their dog's no longer terrorizing their home, or when they're leaving the house, it's no longer that separation anxiety. So it's actually a role where, you know, you're servicing others, but it makes you feel good about it too.
Yeah, that makes sense too, especially because you went from, you know, a completely different product to more, like you said, more of a service end of things where you're providing something that's going to help their, you know, family member, because their dog's their family member.
Certainly.
That's awesome. So correct me if I'm wrong, but so your first role when you came on, was it sales and customer service or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's answering questions on sizing for animals going in the crate there. It's making sure people are, you know, understanding the tracking and how it gets to their door, answering questions on the product itself and really getting that knowledge on the product. So yeah, it was customer support sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you first started, I know the company was at its previous location. So what was your, did you have an office there? What was that like?
Yeah.
And then like kind of what was the transition coming to the new building?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've come a long ways and, you know, it started well before me. So, you know, it's cool to see where we're at now. You know, the older building there, it was actually 2 different buildings with a parking lot in the center. So, you know, in the actual production side of things, they were dragging crates from one building to the other to get it packaged and out the door. So, you know, it's North Idaho. It snows quite a bit out here.
For sure.
You know, and we had a sales office that was shared with engineering. It was shared with, you know, the production managers, and it was shared with one of the other companies that was there doing their customer support and sales as well. So, you know, there's a smaller office about the size of room where we're in right now with about 5 of us working out of it.
Oh, wow. And so you guys are taking calls all day, emails, texting, stuff like that, and you're having to basically kind of monitor your volume because everybody else is in the office, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you got, you know, engineers working on the design and getting these crates to what they are today. You have a sales person working on one desk there that's serving, you know, heaters and, you know, all the other industry that they were in prior.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you have me on the phone answering questions with customers, and, you know, we're all trying to kind of work together while all working on separate things.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the transition like from starting in sales and customer service to now being the production and procurement manager?
Yeah, so it was interesting. You know, as you're answering a lot of these questions over the years, you start to really familiarize yourself with the products. Not just the crates, but, you know, all the accessories that we have as well. And so jumping in, I guess, out of the office and into the production area, you know, it is a pretty big step. You know, you think you know the product pretty well. And once again, I was very humbled, you know, to learn that there's a lot of people out there with a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill that really help get us where we are today.
Yeah. Absolutely. A lot of tribal knowledge and things that they've learned over the years. And we have a lot of guys, too, that have been here with us for several years, too.
Absolutely.
So it's like a lot of that stuff you won't know, you know, until you've spent that time on the shop floor.
I went out there and, you know, I didn't pretend to know it all. I certainly didn't. And I knew that. But I asked a lot of questions. And I think that's kind of the best way to kind of familiarize yourself with a new area. So, you know, working with every operator that's out there, every person in production, and asking them a ton of questions on, you know, why are you doing what you're doing, or how are you, you know, making this turn into that, and, you know, kind of familiarizing yourself with the process of it, but also, you know, the volume of it and the intensity of that work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of wanted to get a little bit deeper into the manufacturing of the crates themselves, because a lot of people don't understand what it takes to build one of our crates. And then also not only that, like everything we have in our facility too. I think a lot of people think that, you know, we do part of it here, you know, maybe put some pieces together or something. But so I kind of want to start from the very, very beginning. Like, you know, how does our material show up, and what is that first couple steps right there?
Yeah, so, it's a fascinating area. We're receiving a flat sheet of aluminum. And so, we're starting from raw aluminum and turning it into what the crate is today. And there's quite a few processes in that. So, the first step of that is using our two machines that we have. It's basically a turret punch combo and a laser that's taking this flat sheet of aluminum and turning it into the parts that we need to build these crates.
Okay. So once they come off of those machines you're talking about, are they still flat, or are they like, is it a bunch of little pieces?
Yeah.
Like what's next, or like, what do they look like when they come off of that?
Absolutely. So, basically the sheet of aluminum then is covered in all sorts of parts. So those pieces are then shaken out and organized into each exact piece that's needed.
Sure.
And then they're given to a brake operator there, where they're giving it all the bends and shapes that turn it into the crate that it is. So, taking each one of those internal pieces for the doors, the frames, the body of the crate, the chassis is what we call that, and turn it into that rectangular shape that these crates are.
What's a brake? You said the form operators take and break the parts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does that mean?
A brake is a brake press. It's a machine that forms aluminum, and you use different tools there to get different shapes of aluminum.
Okay.
A lot of the pieces that we're doing is different 90-degree angles that turn out.
So does it like squeeze it or push? Like what does it do to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you said it forms it, but so like, does a piece come down and push against another piece and it bends it or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're then taking each of these pieces, and some of them are going directly into weld. So, to make a really durable product that we have, it takes quite a bit of work. And so many of those pieces there are welded, and they start kind of taking shape there in our pre-assembly department, which is that next step after they're broken apart and formed into the shapes that they are. They're then riveted together.
You take them from the machine that cuts them all out.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody shakes them out, is what you said.
Yep, exactly.
Organizes them, puts them on the form and breaks them, or puts them on the brake and forms them.
Okay.
Some parts go into weld, some parts go into pre-assembly.
Yes. So they really start kind of turning into what that crate is. So they're prepping it for paint.
Okay.
And we powder coat all of our crates in-house. And so once they are bent there, they're welded, and then they start riveting the pieces together. They start taking the shape. They're then hung on a carousel line. And so
are they fully assembled before they go on this carousel line? Like they have the door on them and everything completely assembled? Or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the crate itself is essentially fully assembled at that point, but there's different pieces that go together. So depending on our different models that we have our main three: a stationary, a collapsible, and a high anxiety crate. If you have questions, our sales team and customer support team would love to answer those for you.
Sponsored by ImpactDogCrates.com. You
Love
can also
that.
text them at 208-908-0118. Continue.
Perfect. Yeah, so those crates then are hung on a carousel. So similar to what you would see in a fair carousel,
Yes, the hanging track.
Yes. So, rather than hanging a T-shirt, you're hanging a crate. And the purpose of that is really for efficiency there. So
How many crates can you hang at once?
so generally you could fill the line with a good amount of crates there. That's the answer I could give you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so once they're hung up, where do they go?
So they're hung up. The first step of powder is our wash bay. So we're using different treatments there. Generally, it's a coral treatment, which helps kind of get a good base coat and primer for that aluminum. And
Okay.
it rinses off all of the debris that may be on there from those previous processes.
So these things are on a carousel.
Mm-hmm.
They go into a wash booth. Where do they go next?
Yes. So then they're quickly ran through our oven there. And it helps.
The whole thing.
Yep.
The whole
thing.
crate.
Yep.
goes through an oven.
Going right through that oven there.
Okay.
And what that does is it kind of helps that curing process of powder. It's then ran into a booth where we have two operators there with a powder gun, and they are applying the powder to that raw aluminum.
Then where does it go? Is it done? Just pull it off the line?
I wish it was that simple, but it then is ran back through the oven, and what it's doing there is it starts curing that powder to that raw aluminum,
Okay.
and really making it that durable, of course, non-toxic product that it then becomes once powder coated.
So then do you take it off the line?
Yes. So after it is ran through our oven there, it starts cooling down. Our operators are then taking it off the line and wheeling all of those crates into our final assembly department.
Run me through final assembly.
I would love to. So in final assembly there, it's where they put on the final pieces of that crate. So it's all the latches, the corners, the handles, and that crate really starts coming together.
Do they put our thank you cards in there then?
Yeah, so in the final assembly department, it is where we're putting all of the stickers on the crate, putting the handles on the door, the latches to the crate itself, and all those corners there that we see with our beautiful Impact logo on there.
Mm-hmm.
In final assembly there, they're also getting ready for packaging. So they're throwing those handwritten custom thank you cards into each crate along with that sticker pack, and then getting it to our packagers there where they are making sure it's protected and secured to arrive safely at your door.
So we package them all in-house too?
We do. Yeah, so we have a few different packagers there, all of them very good at what they do and very detail-oriented, which is one of those key steps to making sure that those crates arrive safely.
Well, they're basically the last hands to touch the crates before the consumer does.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And how do these crates ship?
Yeah, so depending on the model and depending on the size, they're either shipping small pack with FedEx or UPS, or they're shipping LTL freight on a pallet and arriving at the door.
So without going into like major detail and not saying anything that's going to get you in trouble by any means, what does the procurement process look like for you? I know you mentioned you get metal, we're powder coating, we're welding, we're getting a bunch of, you said, latches and handles and corners and even thank you cards. So what does it take to really make sure we have all those parts, when we need them?
Yeah, so, really it's a scheduled forecast. And so a good procurement or good delivery of parts is based on making a good schedule. A good schedule is really based on data, making sure that you're going to be producing the correct amount of crates or accessories that are going into fulfilling orders.
And then you kind of work backwards from there, so you understand how many crates you're going to have to build. So then you figure out, okay, how many handles you need, and was that kind of a way you do it, or?
Yeah, exactly. So, what we're doing is we're taking previous data from, the last few years. It does help that we have lots of recorded history and data, and then we sit down as a team and really kind of decide the future, the route of where we're headed and get in the same boat, rowing in the same direction.
Sure.
With those pieces, we could then really build a good schedule going forward and make sure that we're also getting the delivery of adequate parts for each piece. And
that makes sense.
Getting really down into that detail of that.
So we're kind of getting towards the end of the show here. I just have a few random questions for you. What is it that you enjoy the most about being the production manager for ImpactDogCrates.com?
Yeah, absolutely. So being the production manager of ImpactDogCrates.com, I really enjoy working with people. So, we have a pretty full shop with a few different teams there. We're operating 7 days a week. And so being able to work with others, every day there's a new challenge that we get to overcome as a team. And, it's really just kind of about building those relationships there.
That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. If there was one thing you could change from a production point of view, anything that has to do with production, whether it's getting the parts, the schedule, the way something's built, is there anything that you would change? That's
a great question there, Dylan. I think one thing that I would change is the heat of the shop. So, as we work in an aluminum manufacturing building. It's a very large facility here. That powder coat oven is running at 400 degrees. Makes everything very, very warm there. We have some really bulletproof guys out there. They're working 10-hour plus days out there in that shop when it's really warm. The one thing I'd love to change there is making sure they're working in a very cool environment. But unfortunately, manufacturing is not like that.
What is your day-to-day like? Is it always the same? Do you do this at 8, that at 9? Sipping tea? What does day-to-day for Justin Meredith, the production and procurement manager, look like?
Yeah, so, we have quite a few guys on the team that really make impact here at Impact Pawdcast. So, starting out the day, it's really kind of checking in with those guys and making sure everything's running smoothly. We kind of get our list of challenges for the day based on that conversation, and we kind of go in and make a game plan on how we could correct those, whether it's running out a few items, or, making sure that all the labor is in the right areas to, stay to our schedule that we're planning. And it could be as simple as, calling up a few different vendors and asking for some favors to get some pieces in right away.
All right, everyone. Well, there you have it. Our production and procurement manager, Justin Meredith. We hope you enjoyed the show. Today was episode 3 of the Impact Pawdcast. So we're open to feedback. Let us know what you think in the comments. We've been kind of tweaking some things behind the scenes, so trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Please remember that today's episode was sponsored by Impact Dog Crates. It's the only dog crate that does not suck and is guaranteed for life. We also just came out with these fancy new leashes and collars. We'll have Peyton put something right here so you can click on those. Please leave your comments below and what you think we did right, what you think we did wrong. And if you have any questions for Justin, I'll pass them along to you because he doesn't look at those. There you have it.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here, Dylan. I always do my best to prepare here, but in order to make sure that these crates are going out on time, I've been pretty busy today in the shop. Therefore, I had my mom actually write me a script, so then that way I could answer these questions very clearly and precise. And so first off, I'd like to thank my mother for having me here on this podcast.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Yes, Jacqueline.
Of course. And, father as well. Shout out, Jeffrey. Thank you. And that's actually the script I got. Yeah, there. Thank you.